So this is Gary Feldman, again, from U.S. Computer Connection.
And Ronnie Kaplan from Computer Training Solutions.
So what do we have today? I know this is like PowerPoint, which is really probably the most exciting stuff that people love.
Yes, people love PowerPoint, and it's relatively easy to use. Anyone can get started. It's just using the more sophisticated parts of it, which can get a little tricky. So what I'm going to do today is show you what some of the new things are in the 2013 version, which is not a revolutionary change, but there's some new bells and whistles, and if you don't know they're there, then you don't know to use them. So I'm going to show you a little bit about that. And I do group classes for companies, and I also do individual training in case you want to sit down and really get to the ins and outs and get more proficient on one of the Microsoft Office products.
What is your website?
Computertrainingsolutions.biz.
Okay, great.
Okay, so you're all seeing this presentation, and here's just a kind of standard thing with a bunch of different slides in it that have different graphs and charts and tables and pictures and drawings and so forth. And the first item I want to talk about is a feature called the Eyedropper. And I thought this was a really exciting new thing. And this allows you to do color matching in a very exact way. And if I select an object, and these are just separately drawn objects here, and oh, that's interesting because this is covering up my choices here. Can I move? Just a second, we have a little technical issue. I need to see.
Oh, sure.
Can I move that?
Yep.
Okay. Couldn't see the items here. Okay, so when you select a drawing, for instance, you get a formatting drawing tools. And if you go into the format drawing tools, I'm sure you're already aware that you can go to shape fill, and you have all these different colors that'll fill in the shape. But what you have now that's different is if you go below the colors, you have something called Eyedropper. And if I click on Eyedropper, my cursor looks like an eyedropper, and as I move it over some other items like this green area and I click, it matches that green color exactly in that one. So maybe you wanted to match something to a color in your logo or a color that you use as a background or whatever. So that's kind of cool. So if I click on this one and I go into, I'm in the Format Drawing Tools and the Fill and Eyedropper, and then if I go and point to this color, it'll make it that color. I can do the same thing with the outline. So if I want to change this color outline, I can go to Shape Outline. Again, instead of just picking a color from here, I can go down to Eyedropper, and if I want that to be the color that I'm using in my logo, I can do that, and it that doesn't really look much like that color, does it? It changes it to the color I point to. I obviously pointed to a lighter portion of it. So that's one way that you can use that Eyedropper. You can also use it in pictures. So here's a slide that has a picture, and it has some drawn object stars over here. Maybe I'd like the picture to pick up the exact colors in the stars to pick up the exact color in the picture. So again, I can go to Format, and I can go to Fill, and I have all the normal colors here, but I also have Eyedropper, and I can go down and point to these gem lockers and get that exact color. And I can do the same thing with the star and point to the Eyedropper on the Shape Fill and get the color of the guy's shirt. And now it kind of, from a designer point of view, the colors pick up a lot better and so forth. So that's one of the choices. Another way you can use it is in charts. And I place the chart here and I put kind of the logo picture on the slide just to show you that if I decided I wanted these red columns to use the color from the picture, the orange color from the picture, I can again go to the Format, go to the Shape Fill, even though this is for charts, pick an Eyedropper and point to a dark part of that orange, and it changes the colors. So I can use that to do pick things out from pictures. I can use it in charts. I can use it in smart art objects or in drawn objects. So that's kind of a nice, easy way. The object does have to be on the same slide, however. So I'm going to show you also something else about charts that's new, and I'm just going to make this a little bigger so it's easier for everyone to see. And this is just a standard column chart, nothing unusual about it. It does have, however, one series which is much, much smaller in size, in number than the other items, and sometimes we like to create what we call combo charts when that happens, so that we can see this much smaller series arrayed against compared to the others. And we were always able to do that, to create a combo chart, but it took a lot of steps to do it, and so a lot of people were a little confused by it. Now, what we have is, and if you go to the chart tool design, and you say change chart type, there is actually a chart type in addition to pie and bar and area and so forth. Those are all the same types we've had. We actually have a combo type. And it assumed here that I wanted that third series to be of a different nature, and it made it into a line. If I decided, no, I want it to be an area instead, it can do that. Or I could have done it to one of the other types. So it just gives me a checkbox to pick what type of chart I want each of those series to be in. And it also gives me a checkbox to create a secondary axis. Again, something that we were able to do before, but everything was done in a separate series of selections and clicks. So this is all in one spot. So it makes it kind of easy. So if I do that, I now have the chart I would label these axes, of course, but now you can see the comparison of what is called the over and under percent to the projected sales and the previous sales. You can see that comparison a lot easier. Another new thing about the charts are that you see these three buttons pop up. If I click away from it, as soon as I select a chart, you see those three buttons pop up. And basically, they are, again, ways to do things in an easier fashion that you could do before. So if I click on the first one, that's elements of the chart. So I could say, okay, I'd like grid lines, and obviously I could select what kind of grid lines, but I'm just letting it do the standard ones. I can select I want error bars. I can select I want a data table, and that sort of thing. So I'm going to take off some of these so it's less confusing. But we always were able to do that. Here's the add chart elements right on the left side of the design tab. So it's just a different way to get to that. All right. The second choice here, again, is something that just gives us an easier, at your fingertips way to get to something like changing the style. So maybe I wanted the background to be black, or maybe I wanted the bars to be, I don't know, a little bit different. So it just gives me a different way in the style to do that. And I do have that, again, on my toolbar, but maybe for the purpose of having more space, you wanted to close up your toolbar, and then you wouldn't have had it there to see. Okay, so, whoops, not the right way. Okay, so that's a little bit. Now I am in the full screen that I don't want to be, and let me get back to the toolbar. Okay, there we go. I'll pin that toolbar because I really would like it to be there. And by the way, that's something that happens to a lot of people, and they don't know what happened to their tools, and it confuses them. So let me point it out that when you click on this little tick mark, it collapses your ribbon, and then you can't get to your various tools. So you might want to do that pinning thing when you modify that and show it again. And now, of course, I can't find it again. Where are we? Okay, yes, in view. Okay, so now I can say I want to pin that toolbar, or I can just show it, for the moment, but I would like to be showing it. So when you select the chart, you have those items at your fingertips, whether you have that toolbar, the ribbon showing or not. Now, the third one is a filter. And that's actually, I think, something more powerful and important than the others, because it's not something that was so easy to do before. This allows you to filter your chart. So if I decide, no, I don't want to see those over and under percentages anymore, I can simply uncheck, and if I say apply, it's gone from the chart. Or if I don't want to see this particular product, the Handia product, and I say apply, it's gone from the chart. So I can take off and take on whatever I want, and once I hit apply, the chart changes. So you don't have to go back into the actual Excel spreadsheet that shows you the data in order to select what data you want to show and what data you don't. So I think this filter one is particularly helpful. And at any time, as I said, you click on a chart, you're going to get those buttons. You can ignore them if you like, but it gives you some possibilities that make things a little bit easier than in the past. Okay, some other things that, something that's kind of totally new, which I think is rather interesting, is if I go down here to an area where I created some shapes. And I'm just going to, for the moment, look at two of them. If I select those two shapes, they're not grouped or anything, they're just individual shapes, and I go to Format, there's a new feature here in the Insert Shapes grouping, and it's called Merge Shapes, and it has some interesting stuff on it. So I can make a union of those two shapes. I can see how they combine and what overlaps. I'm not sure what fragment does, but here's the intersection only showing, and here's a subtraction, subtracting one shape from the other, and that's affected by which one I selected first. So that's kind of interesting. If I add the third one in, it gets even more interesting. And I'm going to select them, and again, the order in which I select them does have some effect. So I could merge shapes, and here's, of course, a union of all of them. Here's where you can see where they overlap. The fragment, the intersection of all three is a small spot, and the subtraction of the others based on the first one that I selected. So it's kind of interesting. So you can, I guess, use it to help create logos and various objects that might be difficult to create in other ways. So that's when you have an object selected and you go to the Format tab on the ribbon, you will see, I have to have more than one selected in order to merge them, of course. You'll see this merge shapes. So that's another item that I think is interesting. A new way to present to your audience and you being able to see what's going on is a presenter view. And in the last couple of versions, we did have a way to select to have two monitors hooked up, and the audience could see your slideshow and you could see your notes. But now they've expanded that so that you have a lot more things that you're seeing while the audience is seeing the presentation. So I'm just going to go to the beginning, and I want to show you that I did create some notes on the first few slides so you could see this. So here are the notes that I've just, typed in some things here. So the first 3 slides, I think I have notes. After that, I don't. And obviously, you don't want to normally see those notes. You know already that in the View tab, you can go to Notes Pages. So if you were going to be typing a whole bunch of notes, you'd be doing it here, and you could go to from slide to slide and type in your notes and make them larger and smaller and so forth. So I just want to make sure everybody knew what I was talking about with notes. So this is text that you want to have at your fingertips, maybe questions you want to ask the audience, or things, backup information you want to have if somebody mentions something and so forth. So you want to see that. We used to, in the older versions, print out the notes because that was the way we could see them while we were presenting. So now everything is going to be done on screen. Now, a lot of times when you're practicing the presentation that you're going to make to a group, you're not in the room that has the setup for the double monitor. Just like I can't show you 2 monitors over the internet. So they do provide us also with a way to practice this, and it's an Alt F5 that allows you to do that. So I'm going to press Alt F5, and you're going to see the presenter view. So what you're seeing is what the presenter would be seeing while this presentation is going on. And of course, what the audience is going to be seeing is just this one slide enlarged. So you're seeing the slide that's now showing. You're also seeing, here are the notes that exist on that slide. And here, down here, you can make those notes a little larger or a lot larger if you like. And if you make them large enough, Yeah, you also can scroll, so then make sure you can see them, but we don't need them that large. Okay, and it's also showing you what the next slide looks like. So you as the presenter are seeing what's coming next. And you're seeing, this is the way you would go from slide to slide. So here's the notes on the current slide again, and here's what's coming next. And you have a whole bunch of options here that are very interesting. For instance, if someone asks a question that you want to take their attention off the slideshow and just talk to them as a group, as a person, you could say black out the screen and then bring it back again. Now, we always had a way to do that, and that still works. If you hit the B on your keyboard, it blacks it out. It's a toggle. If you hit the W on the keyboard, it whites it out, and that's a toggle. You also have a way of enlarging things. So let me go back to this one that has a picture, and let's say I want to enlarge that picture. So I have a magnifying glass here. I can do that, and then look at this. It now makes that take up the whole screen. So you can magnify things on the screen, or you can really see the grain in that picture, huh? And then you can go back and undo it. So it's a toggle as well. You also have, let's say someone asks a question and you know there's an answer for that on, a slide further on. You can click here, you get all your slides up, so you can say, oh, I have the answer for that right here, and you can go back to that, you can show them that slide. And then you can easily go back and say, okay, we were wherever on, up here. Okay, so you can go back and forth. There's also a pen, and you always had an ability to do pen and to do mark things on a slide in various ways. So you have a laser pointer that you can use to point to things. You also have a highlighter that you can use to highlight items if you like. So I can go, for instance, to a slide that has more text, and I can say, whatever, I can highlight. You also have a pen that enables you to circle things or cross things out or underline things or whatever. Just make sure you practice that stuff, because it's not as easy to control as it looks. And you can always erase all of that stuff. There's a choice in here to erase it. There's an eraser, but quite frankly, if you hit the E, it erases all the stuff, and that's a little bit easier. And you can still use the features that we used before. Control A always gives you back your arrow to enable you to go back and forth, and Control P always gives you the pen, the ability to draw.
Hey, Ronnie, you know what? This is great for the Surface Pro, for like the Lenovo Mix, like a touch screen, like a tablet.
Yeah.
It makes it so easy just to do all these, these notations on the screen, moving around.
Right.
So a touch screen, I know you're using a computer, but these presentations are great when you're making them. Have a handheld tablet, touch screen.
Right.
You can really mark it up and do great things with it.
Okay, so you can follow this, and obviously when I get to the point where there are no more notes, it just says no notes, so you know that, and it shows you the next screen. And to get out of this, you just hit escape. And it's asking me if I want to keep the annotations, and no, I do not, so I'm going to discard them. And here we are back in the presentation, just at the point we were. So they did have a presenter view in the past, but this gives you a lot more control over that presenter view and a lot more options. Another feature that I want to talk about is the fact that we've used media or videos within our presentations for a long time. And so I have one slide that has a video in it, and if I say play it, actually, I have to run it, of course, to play it. So if I run the presentation on that slide, oops, okay, let me get back to that slide. If I run the play, no, okay. All right, so it plays, it's a very short video, and it's about this company, and it plays, okay. I can stop that. Now, it plays within the box that the video is set in, within that frame, which is what you would expect. The new part of the feature is when you're not running the slideshow, when you're just looking at it, and you just select that video area, you get these video tools, And if you go to the Playback tab, there is a choice here that you can say play it full screen. And that's what's a little different. So if I say play it full screen, and then I run the slideshow on that slide, and I select, it's not letting me select it, which is interesting. Okay, let's see this. This is interesting because it's not letting me, oh, I'm in presenter view, which I don't want to be in. Okay, maybe that was the yeah, okay, there it is. I was still in that presenter view, so that's why it wasn't letting me. So now I'm running this in full screen as opposed to running it within the restricted box that it was in before. Okay, so that's the difference, the new thing in the video. So you have to be not running it, you have to just select it, go to playback in the video tools that come up, and you can choose to play it full screen, and you have these other things about when to start it and looping it and so forth, and those were there before, but that's a new feature. And something else that's kind of new, we always had guides that show up in terms of, maybe they're not turned on this. Yeah, we always had guides that showed you in the center a dotted line going horizontally and vertically, and you can move those guides to help you line things up. And we have had for a couple of versions also grid lines that you could turn on, and so like a graph paper behind it, and you can indicate how large or small you want that grid to be. But what's new now is if I select an object and kind of move it around, can you see how it gives me what they're calling smart guides? So when I get near another object, it puts a line across here, like to line it up with that object exactly. Or if I get near a margin area, it's kind of a little tricky to get it there. So it wants to help me line things up to be even with other objects and to be on the same line. Here's another instance where it's lining it up with the item below it. So that's an automatic, that's automatically on. You can go to this, in this show the various guides, you can go to the launcher box and get this dialog box, and that they're calling that smart guides. And so here's where you tell it, and here's where you could also display the grid and indicate what the spacing of that grid would be, and whether you want things to snap to the grid. So that's, I mean, that was always there, but the smart guides is new. Okay, so that's another new item that is maybe handy if you're using a lot of graphics and objects that you need to modify. And another item that I wanted to talk about is comments. We're working in an environment these days where we're sharing lots of things and other people are working on it, and you might be creating a spreadsheet that, I'm sorry, a presentation that other people are editing or making suggestions on. And as you probably know, they can put comments. So I have put a few comments on this slide, in this slideshow, just to illustrate something. So here's a comment I did, and if I go to next, I'm in the review tab, which allows me to move through and see the various comments without having to, you know, look for each one. So I had 3 comments, okay? Now, you always had the ability, let's say you had a slideshow with 65 slides in it, and it had 32 comments, and you went through and you looked at each one and you made the adjustments or not, and so forth, and now you're finished, and now you want to get rid of all the comments. In the past, you had to delete them one at a time, which was rather tedious. So here, now when you have comments and you're in this review tab and it says delete, I can, of course, just click delete that one, or I can say all the ones on this slide, or I can say all the comments and ink in the presentation. So I can delete them all at once if I like, which is kind of neat. So if I slay that, delete all of them, yes, and notice there's no more next because I've gotten rid of all the comments. So that is a nice time saver if you're going through that. And because everything is being shared and everything is now, everybody is wanting to put everything up in the cloud, when you go to save something, of course, it wants to save it to OneDrive by default because that is in Microsoft's cloud. So you can set up OneDrive folders that are shared, that are personal, and so forth, and you can save it, or of course you can still save it to your computer or to locations. So that is some of the new things that are in here that I thought were the most important. None of these are revolutionary, but they're new bells and whistles, and it lets you be a little bit more creative. Any questions?
So if there's questions, you could just put it in the chat. You could send the chat to everybody, to just the presenter, and we could answer your questions now. Is there, wow, okay. So everyone's figured this out, and you did a great job presenting. So we will be doing another webinar coming up in a couple of weeks on social media, cybersecurity. So go to uscomputer.com/events to see what the next event that we have for our free training. And we'll also be offering some more training with Ronnie. So we'll be posting that on our calendar as well.
Sure, thanks for listening.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye-bye.